We're live.
Good afternoon. It's a little later than we thought we might start, but it's March the 13th, and this is a voting session of the House Judiciary Committee. We're going to get right into it. We have Delegate Cardin's bill. This is House Bill 176. There is an amendment. Starts with 3333321. That's the amendment. Delegate Cardin, tell us what the amendment does.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment does what all the advocates had asked, which is it takes all the landlord-tenant issues out of the bill so that the fees will remain the same. There will be no change for anything dealing with landlord tenants for the sheriffs. So that would include breach of lease, tenant holdover, warrant of restitution, wrongful entry and detainer, and an order of levy in distress.
All right. Is there a motion on the amendment?
Move favorable.
Is there a second? Motion is a second. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. Delegates Sham, Shetty, Bartlett, Howell, Jones, Cardin, McComas, Moon, Lopez, Anderson, Fisher, Grammer, Shoemaker, Tolles, Crutchfield. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, the amendment is adopted. We're on the bill as amended. There's a motion for a favorable. Is there a second? All right, we're moved and seconded. We have discussion. Delegate Grammer, then Bartlett. Delegate Grammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask if you could summarize the bill as amended, please.
Sure. The bill just raises the ability for the sheriffs to get $60 instead of $40 when they do service on all of those matters that don't include landlord-tenant issues.
Okay, thanks.
Delegate Bartlett.
And so, thank you. So we had already voted on the $60 part. I saw that amendment. I didn't know if we voted on.
No, what the amendment does is it brings it back down to 40 for anything dealing with landlord-tenant,
And so
which is what it was before.
I just want to step in here. Delegate Cardin, you have two amendments. The first amendment that drops it down back to 40, and then you have the new amendment, the 333. I think for just clarity, we have to vote both your new amendment and the old amendment so I can combine them into one amendment for you.
Okay, and that's my fault then, because I thought that we only needed to do the one. So, okay, so we need to do the second one as well. And again,
the first one, Chair, is with the dropping down to this back down to the $40 instead of 60 is amendment 5632261.
I think that's the one that Delegate Bartlett was referring to. So we have to do that one too. Yes. I have a motion on that amendment.
Move favorable.
Motion for favorable in a second. All right. Any discussion on that amendment? Wouldn't expect there is. All right. All in favor of that amendment 5632226, raise your hands. Cox, Grammer, Bartlett, Howell, Shetty, Cardin, McComas, Jones, Cham, Moon, Lopez, Fisher, Munoz, Shoemaker, Tolles, and Crutchfield. Anybody opposed? All right.
So now, Delegate.
Well, Bill is I'm going to adopt the previous motion for a favorable with that amendment too. So that's fine.
And Delegate Bartlett, just to answer your question. So what that first amendment did is it, the original idea was to just take in line 19, change it from 40 to 60. That was not the correct way of keeping everybody happy. So we had to move it back down to 40 there and specify exactly where the amounts would not change for landlord-tenant reasons.
All right. Are there further questions about the bill, about the favorable with amendment? Seeing none, the Vice Chair?
Yes.
Shoemaker?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erican?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Cardin?
Yes.
Conaway?
Yes.
Cox?
No.
Crutchfield?
Yes.
Davis? Deborah Davis. I don't see her. Fisher?
Yes.
Grammer?
Yes.
Howell?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Lopez? Lopez? You're still muted? I see.
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry, my spacebar wasn't working.
all right. McComas,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Shetty,
Yes.
Cham,
Yes.
Tolles,
Yes.
right? And Williams? Don't see Williams. All right. I do not see Delegate Davis, so we'll excuse her. And I think that should be 18. Right, 18. Okay, so that's adopted. Go now to Delegate Pippy. His bill is House Bill 185. It went through the Criminal Law Subcommittee. There are amendments. There is an amendment 203329. Mr. Vice Chair, can you tell us what this bill does now?
The bill was attempting to increase the penalty from 1 year to 10 years and a misdemeanor to a felony on the crime of visual surveillance of someone in their private area for prurient interests if it involved a minor. And the subcommittee amended the bill to put the penalty enhancement as a 5-year misdemeanor if the visual surveillance involved you sneaking a camera specifically, because the original bill covered direct observation with your eyes, with the mirrors, and with the camera. But we were trying to mirror this off of child porn creation. So the camera would subject you to a penalty up to 5 years under the amended bill. We also clarified, in case there was any confusion about whether a hunting cabin or other such facility would count, that a private residence also counted in that sort of public accommodation section of the law. Move the amendment.
All right, the motion for the amendment, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Are there questions about the amendment? Comments about the amendment? Delegate Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Vice Chair, why is it that that you wanted to reduce this from a felony to a misdemeanor? Maybe I missed what you said.
The subcommittee has generally been hesitant to reclassify things into felonies. And so I tried to understand what the bill was trying to do. And what was suggested to us was that there was some case law that created some ambiguity as to whether a federal child pornography crime could be charged in the instance of visual surveillance in this sort of peeping Tom camera, if that counted as child pornography. And with the state's attorneys indicated that there was some confusion. So we tried to address that specific challenge by putting a penalty enhancement in state law on using a camera, in other words, creating child pornography via a peeping Tom mechanism. But again, the subcommittee has generally been hesitant to reclassify things into felonies.
All right,
This amendment, to be clear, also, I think got out unanimous as a result from the the subcommittee. So we got everyone on board the overall bill of increased penalties with these changes.
further questions on the amendment? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the amendments, please raise your hands. Bartlett, Howell, Shetty, Jones, Carden, McComas, Davis, Cham, Moon, Lopez, Anderson, Fisher, Shoemaker, Tolles, Crutchfield, Williams. Anybody, a grammar, I think I said, anybody opposed? Cox? Don't see anybody else. The amendment's adopted. We're on the bill as amended.
Favorable.
This motion for
Second.
favorable and a second. All right, further discussion on the bill as amended. Seeing none. The vice chair,
Yes.
Shoemaker. Shoemaker. You're muted.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Anderson,
Yes.
Erican,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Hardin,
Yes.
Conaway. Conaway. Delegate,
Yes. Yes.
yes, okay. Cox,
Yes.
Crutchfield,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Juanita Fisher,
Yes.
Grammer,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McComas,
Yeah, yes.
okay. Munoz,
Yes.
Shetty,
Yes.
Cham,
Yes.
Tolles,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
21. Okay,
Mr. Chair, I was wondering if I could have a vote on Delegate Carter.
yeah, Delegate Davis, Delegate Williams, how would you have voted on 176?
I would like to be voted in the green, Mr. Chair.
In the green,
My apologies, Mr. Chair. Yes.
all right, your Zooms didn't work. 20 on 176 now, so that's fine. So now we'll go to House Bill 571. All right, there's an amendment. This is Delegate Rosenberg's bill. Council, Holly, would you please tell us what the amendments do? The amendments in a reprint that's been sent out, I believe, 263829, please. Holly?
Yes, so the amendments strike a provision of the preamble. They add the word final in line 23, page 2 in front of settlement, just for clarifying purposes. And the final amendment removes, so all of the money from the fund, all of the money will go into the fund, excluding money that is, it had money received by the aggrieved party. The amendment changes that to the term restitution. And just, it was per the AG and Delegate Rosenberg for clarifying purposes as well.
Move the amendment.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing no one seeking to discuss the amendment. All in favor of the amendment?
Oh,
We have to pass the amendment first.
Sorry,
All in
Mr.
favor of
Chair.
the amendment, raise your hands. Cox, Bartlett, Howell, Shetty, Grammer, Jones, Carden, McComas, Davis, Cham, Moon, Lopez, Anderson, Fisher, Shoemaker, Crutchfield, Williams. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, the amendments adopted. So we're on the bill as amended. Now Delegate Fisher.
Sorry, move as amended.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, great. Are there any discussion on the bill as amended? Okay,
Favorable.
we already, Delegate Fisher was like there 2 minutes ago. Here we go. The Vice Chair,
Yeah.
Shoemaker,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erican. Lauren. Erican. I'll come back to her. Bartlett,
Yes.
Hardin,
Yes.
Conaway,
yes,
Cox,
No,
Crutchfield,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Juanita Fisher,
Yes.
Grammer,
No.
Howell,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes, and Mr. Chair, Delegate Tolles have to leave, step out for just a moment, but if you haven't gotten back to her, she does want to vote yes.
all right. Well, we'll see what we can do here. Delegate Lopez,
Yes.
Delegate McComas,
No.
Delegate Munoz,
No.
Delegate Shetty,
Yes.
Delegate Cham,
No.
Delegate Tolles. I heard you. Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Erican. I see her box on the screen, but I don't see her and she's muted. But I now see Delegate Tolles, who I can ask how she wants to vote on 571. Delegate Tolles on 571.
Rosenberg taught in my law school, so yes, yes.
All right.
That's,
Okay.
I'm sorry, you on 571, right?
Yes, that's the one. That's his bill.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna mark Erican excused. We might need to try to figure out whether she got disconnected. But
Mr.
the
Chair,
bill,
very briefly, on 176, if it's okay, I'd like to be registered as a no on the final vote. I thought the amendment did more than it actually did.
all right. 19-2 on 176 now. And this is why I don't like this very much. I'm going to card laid now. We're done with that. With no disrespect to Delegate Grammer, it's fine. I just I don't want to get into too much of this. So that's on 571. It's Delegate Conway. It's kind of loud. 8, 11, 14 to 6. Okay. We go to 785 next. I'm going to go to 785. There is an amendment. This was passed from the Baltimore City delegation. The amendment basically says, whose bill is this?
Do you want me to say?
Yeah,
what it does?
that'd be fine. Let's do that.
Okay,
Go
the
ahead.
amendment requires the submission of an interim report in addition to a final report. Mandates a minimum $500,000 budget appropriation for each of the 5 years of the pilot program and delays the start of the program to July 1st, 2023.
All right. Are there questions? Well, let's do this. Could I have a motion on the amendment, please?
Move favorable.
All right, this is
Second.
second, thank you. All right, are there questions about the amendment? Delegate Grammer?
Thank you. Where was the appropriation in the amendment? I don't see that. You said there was a $500,000 appropriation.
Whether it was in the bill.
Oh, it was in the bill that.
Oh, wait a minute. No, it's not in the bill either. Oh, there it is in the bill.
It was in the
Section
bill for just 1 year, and then in the years 2023, 2024. So what the amendment is doing is saying there has to be a $500,000 each year.
Okay, so it's in the original bill, but the amendment expands it out in subsequent years.
three. Correct.
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. On the amendment, all in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. Delegates Bartlett, Shetty, Jones, Howell. I can't tell what Delegate Cardin is doing. It looks like Cardin, Davis, Lopez, Moon, Anderson, Fisher, Tolles, Crutchfield, Williams. All those opposed, please raise your hands. Shoemaker, Cham, Comus, Cox, Grammer, Erican. All right, the amendment is adopted. But on
Move
the bill-
favorable as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. And a second. Further discussion on the bill as amended. Delegate Cham.
Thank you, Chair. Is this just applicable for Baltimore City?
It's in Baltimore City. The idea is that this is meant to be a pilot, and then the idea would be to see if we can do this in other parts of the state.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any further questions? Seeing none, the Vice Chair,
Yes.
Shoemaker.
No, and just to explain, Mr. Chair, I would have been perfectly comfortable with a 1-year appropriation, but since we're extrapolating this out over 5, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. So that's just to explain my vote.
I understand. Delegate Anderson.
Yeah, in favor of local courtesy, I'm voting yes.
Oh dear. And Eric Ann,
I'm sorry, could you tell me the bill number again?
785.
This isn't the Howard County one, is it?
No.
Okay, then I'm a no.
Okay. Delegate.
Oh, you're
Anderson.
okay for Howard County, but not Baltimore City.
All right, be
I get it.
nice. He is being nice. Let's keep.
We had
going.
this long discussion yesterday about
I
local
know.
courtesy.
Stop. Let me get through, please.
All right, sorry.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Hardin,
Yes.
Conaway. Delegate Conaway.
Yes.
Thank you. Delegate Cox,
No.
Crutchfield,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes, I'm gonna miss y'all.
Grammer.
The number
No.
of inspectors.
I heard the no from Grammer. Howell,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Comus,
No.
Munoz,
No.
Shetty. Shetty? We've lost her. Cham,
No, and if I may, I hope it comes to Washington County.
okay.
It works. Thank you.
Tolles,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes, for local courtesy, and I think it's a great idea.
13-7. People are getting their swings in here. And hey, look, what's the next bill? House Bill 868. There are no amendments.
Move favorable.
Motion for a favorable. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We had a lot of discussion about this yesterday. Anybody want to talk about it today some more?
Not really.
I'm
Okay.
going to explain my vote, but I don't want to waste time now.
All right. If you're going to explain your vote, I'm hoping everybody's going to be concise in their comments, but maybe that's a lot to ask, but we'll find out. Seeing nobody raising their hands to comment, we'll go with the Vice Chair.
Yes.
Delegate Shoemaker,
Yes.
Anderson,
Well, since there's no such thing as local courtesy, I'll vote no.
Eric Can,
Yes, and just to explain my vote, if I may, Howard County doesn't share a border with my county, and this bill doesn't potentially impact the constituency that I represent. So I'm a yes.
Bartlett,
I'm so confused. Do we do that anymore? Will you let us come back around?
no, I'm not doing that.
Okay, all right. I just didn't know. I didn't know. Those were the good old days. I am a yes.
Okay, Hardin,
Local courtesy, yes.
Conaway, are you excused, Conaway?
On which bill?
868, actually, I don't know. This doesn't have to do with the Baltimore City's Orphans Court, but Howard County, 868.
How Orford's Court?
Yeah.
Excuse.
Cox,
No, and power back to the people.
Crutchfield,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Juanika Fisher,
I'm voting yes, even though I don't really love the bill, because of local courtesy. And I hope Prince George's County and other counties that are majority minority can find the fruition to their goals and dreams and also get local courtesy in this committee and in every committee in the MGA. Thank you.
Okay, Grammer,
Respectfully, no.
Howell,
Yes.
Rachel Jones,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McComas,
To explain my vote briefly, there was an email from a lady that talked about the problems that they had. It took like 18 months and there was like fraud, theft of money and everything. And they felt that the current sitting orphans court judges really were not equipped to be able to handle it. So I'm a yes.
all right, Munoz,
Yes.
Shetty,
Yes.
Cham,
Yes.
Tolles,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, number one, agree that I hope that Prince George's County can get local courtesy as other jurisdictions have, but that's not why I wanted to explain my vote. I don't necessarily agree with this bill. And so I believe, again, as I will state, that Prince George's County rules changed, and I don't agree with why they changed. And I think we need to not go down that path. But as I stated in the beginning, because of local courtesy, I will support this bill, but I do not love it as either. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to explain my vote.
you're very welcome. Delegate Williams,
Yes, for local courtesy.
all right. 17-3 with one excused.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Did you want to say something with your vote? You missed it?
I actually haven't done this before, so I was wondering if you would let me change my vote on 785. Just once.
It won't change the outcome on 785.
Yes.
All right,
I'd like to be yes.
that changes that to 14-6. It doesn't change the outcome, but I'm just going to say,
Thank you.
my rule for the last 4 years that we have all been okay with is that I, generally speaking, don't let people flip back and forth because it makes, I'll just be direct. Part of getting through session is making sure I don't drive the staff crazy. It's hard enough for them as it is already working, here, me and everything. So I'm just, and if all of you are changing your votes, I swear to God. But I just want to say we try to avoid that, but
I know, and I know you do, and I apologize. But I hear what all my colleagues are saying about local courtesy, and I wanted to be consistent. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now I have many people raising their hands, although I'm not sure what they're raising their hands for. So this is going to be entertaining. Delegate Bartlett?
I'd like to say that the staff is wonderful and I appreciate them immensely. The reason why I raised my hand was because I could not hear you clearly when you stated the final tally on House Bill 868. And I just wanted to hear it again, please.
17-3 with one
Thank you.
excused.
All righty. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and our awesome staff.
Delegate Shetty?
Hi there. I was presenting briefly one of my bills in HGO subcommittee, and I did not get to vote on Delegate Robin Lewis's bill, and I just wanted to be recorded in the green if I may.
That makes it
If is too much hassle, I will not.
15-6. Shetty is a yes on 785.
Thank you, sir.
Delegate Howell?
I just wanted to explain why I voted yes.
That's fine.
And the reason why I voted yes is because I've heard so many stories about people when they go to these hearings and the judges are not equipped. And I just want to explain that. I think that in some cases they need to be equipped and they need to be judges that know what they're doing in these cases. Thank you.
Right? Delegate Cham.
Hey, Chair. Hello, how are you?
I'm swell, Delegate Cham.
785 is pressing on me to vote yes. So I'd like to change my vote on 785.
Going to
please.
let you all change. Oh my God. 16-5. Now, Delegate Lewis, Delegate Robin Lewis is feeling love. I didn't know she had that much sway in this committee. Delegate Anderson.
We'll move the previous question.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just gonna be
I'm
candid with
taking
you.
my job, Kurt. That's my job.
That's fine. Delegate, I'm going to say this. We had one more bill on the docket, and I know it is the somewhat torturous path that Buddy's Law is taking. I did learn more. I want the opportunity to speak, and I know that she has told me, I think that she's fine, but I owe Delegate Davis the courtesy to speak with her, and I'm going to do that. And I will hold on to this until tomorrow. And I don't think that it will be a big deal for that. And I'm going to do that out of courtesy, certainly to Delegate Davis. With that, we're done voting today. Tomorrow, we'll have a morning session. There will be a vote session in between the two sessions tomorrow. Possibility of a good old fashioned Judiciary Committee. Oh, I have one more vote actually. So let me get through the scheduling, but we do have one more vote on here, and it's House Bill 618. Morning session. We'll have a voting session in between, and then an evening session. And then on Friday, I expect we'll have a double session as well. There's probably going to be another voting session there. I want, however, now to go to House Bill 618. House Bill 618 was moved.
Favorable.
It was moved unfavorable by the Ways and Means Committee. They are the primary committee on this legislation, and as such, since they were the primary, I would entertain an unfavorable motion because they are already the primary here, and the bill would be unfavorable to begin.
Move unfavorable.
Second.
Okay.
What does the bill do?
This is Delegate Cox's bill, the Maryland Parental Rights Act.
Very simple bill, and it's.
And so let's have discussion, and let's go to Delegate Cox. So Delegate Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It would have allowed, and it would allow for parents to have information about their children's curriculum in school, and to have notice of any medical issues or diagnoses. So if a child has a mental health crisis in school, they're required to report that to the parent so the parent can be involved. And also just in general, developing a policy requiring schools to develop policies to involve parents in the education of their children. So it's straightforward bill. We had over 50,000 parents in Maryland alone supporting this bill in committee through 6 different organizations. And I'll say it's an honor to be the only bill so far this year moved unfavorable, actually, because I think it represents what every Maryland parent wants, and I think it's at least we're having the opportunity to discuss it. So thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would move favorable. I think it's worthy of that, even if the other committee wasn't able to find time to move it. So thank you.
The Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to get really into the substance of the bill, but it's not as simple as our colleague suggests. There's things like right to jury trials and stuff in there. But my question is this, actually, for the chair. It's procedurally, the bill is already dead, right? No matter how we vote, if the primary committee on a jointly assigned bill has disapproved the bill, in other words, there's nothing we can do that would revive it?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Not in the opinion of the chair, no. There's nothing. We are just following with the I think we're going to do more than follow what Ways and Means has already done. I think.
But this is basically a pro forma action at this point.
I would maybe characterize it as a little more substantive than that, but yeah. Delegate McComas. And by the way, before I go to Delegate McComas, I think delegates Crutchfield, Davis, and Fisher went from the Judiciary Committee to Ways and Means, at least virtually. So we'll hear from them or one of them if they wish to speak here in a moment. Delegate McComas.
I was just going to second Delegate Cox's motion for a favorable.
I think we're on an unfavorable motion right now. If the unfavorable motion fails, then we'd have to reconsider and there'd be 24 hours before we could bring it back.
Point of order, sir. Who made the motion for the unfavorable and the second on the unfavorable? Because I missed that.
Delegate Davis, and I believe I heard it was Delegate Fisher or the vice chair, or one of the two.
I thought I caught the second on that one.
Yeah.
I'll give it to me. We all know the game is rigged, but that doesn't mean we're going to go down sweetly.
Are there further Delegate Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't, in the Ways and Means, the other committee for the testimonies there, but my question to Delegate Cox is, like, to my knowledge, right, in my county, all this information parents already have access to. We have access to it online. Children bring home handouts about what's being taught in their class currently. So are you, offering this bill because it was your understanding that parents across the state don't have access to what their children are being taught? I mean, most school systems, particularly after we went virtual, set up some sort of digital platform. Calvert uses a home access center. Parents can access that every single day. We have our own login. I can, use my child's login. I can see exactly what he's learning every day. So I'm confused about why the bill would be necessary in the first place.
Delegate Cox.
So that's not actually the sum and substance of the bill. And actually, there's a question whether you can see all the content that's being taught. If your school is allowing all the content that's being taught to be provided to you voluntarily, that's great. It sounds like you have a good school, but that's not the way it is across the state. It's not the way it is in Frederick County. It's not the way it is in Howard County and Montgomery County. There have been various different parts of curriculum that have not been brought to light. And because of the pandemic, the Zoom has allowed parents access to see what's some of what has been taught, although wasn't disclosed prior to being taught to the parents. And this has created an amazing outcry for this legislation. And that's why we had, and I'll just, make it, I'm not making this up. There's over 50,000 moms who are Maryland voters who lodged their support of this bill through the 6 different organizations that testified. So I think if you talk to the average mom and dad, parent, there's lots of great things in this bill. And I did speak with Ways and Means, and I sought some common ground to find a way to narrow the bill, since it is a parental rights act that was comprehensive as best as I could make it. And unfortunately, they did not have the time to move forward on that. So I would say that under our rules, I believe we could do that here. And that's why I had sought to do that. But I think the chair's motion is pending instead of mine. So that's the way it stands.
I see. And one more
Go ahead,
question.
Delegate Jones. Keep
I'm
going.
sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So do you have access, Delegate Cox, to see what your children are being taught in Frederick schools system?
Absolutely. We have access because we homeschool our children. And part of the reason we home educate is because we haven't been provided access, and most parents know that. So I think if you dig in, honestly, to address your question, if you think this is already being done, then it really shouldn't be an objection to making that part of the statute. But it does go beyond just curriculum. I mean, we're talking about required interaction for policies, required reporting on all health care diagnoses and interactions with the children. And also, as the vice chair pointed out, mandatory aspects of prior children being removed from their families, having the right to a jury trial, which is done in this country and other states. It's a good thing to be done here. And it gives parents, the absolute authority for their children in interaction with the schools, and provides a plan to make that happen in a way that's reasonable and positive for everyone involved.
Delegate Grammer, then Crutchfield, then McComas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to respond to or give some additional discussion to what was being discussed. For example, the online curriculum availability. There was a bill that discussed just that one measure. It was a Baltimore County bill. And a representative from the board came in to tell us why the bill wasn't necessary. They brought up the online portions of curricula, and they said, well, here it is. And the majority of it was missing. And I think maybe what Delegate Cox's bill gets at is, what happens when you're supposed to be doing these things, but the whatever agency or organization is responsible for providing this, what happens when they're just not doing it? And I think maybe that's a little bit about what this gets at. So that's a specific example about that one small portion of policy, but that's why I'll be supporting the bill. And we should work this kind of thing out, frankly.
Delegate Crutchfield.
So Delegate Cox, one of the concerns I think that I had when I listened to the testimony was that there was no one there representing the PTAs. There was no one there that it appeared to be representing teachers or some of the other organizations. And I didn't get a sense from, like I said, those absences as to whether the organizations who did come and testify actually had been involved with their schools. I mean, I have to just let you know that I'm a old PTA parent and was very involved in my children's schools, and that the schools provided a lot of the things that you have mentioned. And as Delegate Jones mentioned earlier, I was a part of the school improvement plans. I was a part of like every step of the way in my children's education, including understanding and knowing the curriculum. And I do have to say to you in particular about Montgomery County, and that is the fact that they do provide information on curriculum to parents. It is available, it is accessible, it is in all places. The school board, all of those individuals are available to provide what a parent needs to know about their child. So I would like, if you decide to bring this bill again, to make sure you have other resources and you get other testimony to balance out the testimony that you presented with your bill. And again, just make sure you also check with your other school jurisdictions to inform yourself and to make sure that you actually have accurate information about what's going on in those particular school jurisdictions.
Well, thank you, Delegate. I would respectfully suggest that the parents who testified in the organizations are very involved in their schools. In fact, many of them are on the PTAs. Many of them are actually running for Board of Ed. And we're talking about 50,000 parents that are heavily involved in their schools and want to remain that way. And it was balanced. They were very balanced individuals. These are parents who care. They're actually the ones who show up and who interact with their schools and who are very educated people or, in their work life, spend the time necessary for their children to be involved. And so I was very pleased with that balanced discussion. And I think the fact that you didn't have teachers opposing it, I think shows the reasonableness of this, because teachers actually, the ones I talk to in my county especially, they love parental involvement. They want more parental involvement, not less. And so that's what this bill would facilitate across the state. So, but thank you.
Delegate McComas, then Eric Hand, then Shetty. You're muted,
No, I'm
Delegate
muted.
McComas. There we go. Delegate McComas, you're muted.
Sorry, I went back over the testimony and there were 31 favorable and 61 on, or 16 unfavorable, 31 to 16. I mean, just by the numbers. Now, what I did was I kind of went through and there were some duplicates there of the unfavorable, but we had the Maryland Board of Education, MABE, we had Free State, we had the social worker lobbying group that we see all the time. We had the Maryland Association of School Boards Healthcare. We had the clinical counselors. We had the parent and guardians of the Maryland State Bar Association. We also had the American Atheists. Okay, and so it was kind of interesting, the groups that opposed the bill. So I guess I don't know why they opposed it. I guess anyway, but I thought that was interesting. So basically there was more favorable than unfavorable, and it was parents.
Delegate Arakan.
Move the previous question.
There are a couple more people who have their hands raised, but we'll get to it. Just one moment. I'm going to hear from a couple more people, and then I think Delegate Fisher was also going to beat you to the punch, or you were beating Delegate Fisher to the punch here a little bit. I'm going to hear from Delegate Shetty, then I'm going to say something, and then we're going to move the previous question. Delegate Shetty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Delegate Cox, for bringing this bill. I think this is an important discussion to have. I too am a parent, and my son does attend public schools here in Montgomery County. I'm very involved with our local PTA, very involved with our class, and I care deeply, and I'm also educated and know a lot about our existing rights as parents here in this great state. I think, like all parents, I want the best for all of our children throughout the state, especially those, who are littles, and they rely on us for their health and their safety. And so I know we share that as parents, Delegate Cox. So I have a number of concerns about this bill, but I'm going to focus. I want to say, just sort of for the record, that I'm concerned about a lot of the provisions. I'm concerned about the immunization section. I'm concerned about the comprehensive sex ed section, because I feel like both of those issues, both of those sections really cut at the core of young people's access to healthcare and health information to keep them safe. And I know that as a general body, all of us care deeply about protecting the safety of all of our children. But I want to focus specifically on the medical treatment of a minor section, because there are already existing laws that really speak to the rights as well as the limits on those rights of parents as it pertains to the treatment of the healthcare of their children. And I think that many of those, if not all of those, are really critical to keep in place. And I worry that your bill, Delegate, really undermines those provisions and could actually harm young people. And I don't think that's your goal. But specifically, if you look in the fiscal note, there's an entire section on the medical treatment of a minor that outlines our existing laws that state that before that parents already have to get consent from physicians to give care to minors, and that is aligned with your bill. But your bill goes further in that it could potentially undermine some of the exceptions that exist in law. For example, if the physician feels that the life or the health of the minor could be affected adversely by delaying treatment because of the need to get parental consent, they have the right and the ability to treat them based on their medical knowledge. And I am not a doctor. I'm a lawyer like you. I am a parent like you. I would not want a doctor to stop treating my son if he were injured, to delay if there was a school nurse and something horrible happened at school. I would want them to immediately get care to my son and not delay to call me first to get consent. Like, go ahead and treat him, make sure he's okay. I'm not a doctor. I will never second guess the professional judgment of a healthcare provider. Separately, there's the ability of healthcare providers to provide treatment or advice about drug abuse or alcoholism, venereal disease, pregnancy, contraception, and the prevention of HIV. If my son ever needs that information, I would not want me to be a barrier, or my husband to be a barrier for him accessing that information. And if a child is sexually assaulted, that's another exception to the parental consent and notification rule in our existing law. And that ensures that these young people are able to access the care that they need as quickly as possible. And there could be scenarios, and I think your bill includes mention of this, that you don't have to wait for the consent of the parent if the parent themselves are subject to some sort of criminal investigation, or they are, already have had their parental rights terminated. But there are numerous examples of really horrible situations that we've even heard before our committee, where a young person might not want their parent to know that they were sexually assaulted, or maybe their parent was involved in some way, but they're not currently under investigation. And maybe the young person is in a position where they need to get care in order for the parent to be potentially subject to criminal investigation. And so I think there are a number of scenarios that we've heard before our committee that really caused me to take pause on this bill, particularly as it relates to the medical treatment section for young people. I know that that your heart is in a good place, that you care about kids, and you're a parent of many, many more children than I. But I share your deep respect of parents and their rights. But I would argue vehemently that as a parent, our rights are to ensure the health and safety of our kids and all children here in Maryland. And I don't believe that this bill does that. But thank you for bringing this to us, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Delegate. Just briefly, I would also vehemently support the parents' decisions and the protection of the child. And I just want to point out that reading from the bill itself, it says, except as otherwise provided by law, the healthcare practitioner shall obtain the consent of the parent. So your concerns are, in my humble judgment, misguided. We actually wrote this bill to make sure that those provisions that you cited for health and for the life and safety of the child are still part of the law. In fact, in no way can the physician fail to provide that medical treatment under this bill. In fact, they have to follow the law, which they would have to do emergency treatment. This is a situation where they're, and you mentioned vaccinations and other medical treatment. This is a situation where healthcare practitioners are just simply on notice now under the law that they have to obtain the consent. They can't just, line the kids up and do whatever they want to do. They have to obtain the consent. I think we can all agree that that's a rational and reasonable thing, since the parents in this state want to be involved and make sure that they consent to the healthcare of their children, and to have the right to opt out of sexually explicit materials. I mean, that's not a barrier. It's simply information. So if your concern, Delegate, is that you could become a barrier to HIV or other instructional materials, that would be on the parent, not the law. The law should be providing the most options, not actually becoming a barrier to the parents' involvement on those super sensitive and important issues, which I think the data shows the involvement of parents in those issues always provides the best outcome with all the professionals involved. So for that reason, but thank you. I think your concerns are respectfully, completely really not understanding the actual, black letter of the bill. And I think the bill's got all those protections in there that you mentioned a concern about, but thank you.
There was a motion for the previous question. And I indicated that I was going to speak prior, and then I'm just going to call the roll. We work with Delegate Cox extensively on this committee, and Delegate Cox is a piece of legislation, another piece of legislation, and there are many pieces of legislation that we see. I don't believe that Delegate Cox means in any way to be hurtful to me, or frankly to people like me. However, in different parts of this bill, it is very difficult, very, very difficult for me as a gay man not to take that kind of personally. A person's fundamental value system, which could be so broadly defined as to be just so simply homophobic, they could decide that they're going to object. I just can't. I just can't. I can't bear that. I can't bear the thought of hundreds and thousands of kids who are different. We're looking for information, and maybe their parents are teaching them something different, and that's okay. They should teach them something different. But the sheer ability of those parents to then object and prevent that information, and I understand it'll be the argument is it's just directed at my kid and not at anyone else. But when it happens over and over again, it just stigmatizes hundreds and hundreds of kids. That is not who we are as Marylanders. It is not what parents want. And that is why I'm calling the roll call on this unfavorable. The Vice Chair.
Yes.
Shoemaker. I'll come back. Shoemaker.
Oops, sorry.
Is
No,
the
Mr.
No. Okay. Anderson. Eric Han.
No.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Carden.
Yes.
Conaway.
Yeah.
Cox.
No, and if I may, Mr. Chair, respectfully, it's not at all a homophobic bill, because I would, I would respect your children just as much as I would request your respect of our children, because it's the parent, the parents are the ones in charge, not this committee. And so that's why I think that it's misguided to say that it's homophobic. Thank you.
Crutchfield.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Juanita Fisher.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Grammer.
No.
Howell.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Lopez.
As a parent, yes.
McComas.
No.
Munoz.
No.
Shetty.
Yes.
Cham.
No.
Tolles.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Williams.
Yes.
Delegate Anderson, are you with us? The chair votes yes. That concludes the voting session for the House Judiciary Committee for today, March the 16th. Again, we'll be on the floor tomorrow, and we'll be back with the voting session.